When Portia wakes up to find her husband Hunter missing in the middle of the night, she's consumed by suspicion. The next night she follows him, uncovering a secret that threatens to unravel their fragile bond. Can their love survive the truth she discovers? I've always been the type of person who holds on too tight. It's not that I want to be overbearing, it's just that I've always been afraid of losing the ones I love. Growing up in a house that felt more like a battlefield than a home does that to you. My parents were neglectful at best and downright abusive at worst. They left me with deep-seated insecurities and an unshakable fear of abandonment. So when Hunter came into my life, he was like a lifeline, my savior. He was everything I had ever wanted: kind, attentive, and most importantly, stable. I clung to him with all my might. I guess that's where the problem started. Hunter needed his space, but I couldn't give it to him. I was terrified that if I loosened my grip, I'd lose him too. Our arguments were frequent and intense. Hunter would accuse me of being too clingy, of suffocating him. "Portia, you need to give me some space," he'd shout. And I'd counter, tears streaming down my face, "I just love you so much, Hunter. Can't you see that?" In the end, I always managed to manipulate the situation in my favor. I'd play the victim card, and Hunter, with his big heart, would relent. But I knew, deep down, that this wasn't sustainable. One night, something strange happened. I'm usually a heavy sleeper, but for some reason I woke up in the middle of the night. I reached out for Hunter, but his side of the bed was cold and empty. Panic set in immediately. I got up and searched the house, calling out his name. I glanced over at Portia, who was still asleep, her face streaked with dried tears. I sighed, rubbing my face, trying to shake off the lingering frustration. "Hunter? Hunter, where are you?" But there was no response. He was nowhere to be found, and his car wasn't in the garage. He must have gone out, but where? I eventually went back to sleep, certain I'd hear the full story in the morning. I was wrong. I woke up to Hunter bringing me my first cup of coffee with a big grin on his face. "Morning," he said, kissing me on the cheek like it was just another day. Morning. "Is everything okay?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Great. It's a beautiful day and I slept like a baby. Didn't wake up at all," he replied with a casual smile. That lie hit me like a punch to the gut. I felt like the ground had shifted beneath my feet. "You were gone," I whispered, more to myself than to him. "What was that?" he asked, clearly not hearing me. "Nothing," I said, forcing a smile. But inside I was a storm of emotions. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something from me. The next night I decided to find out the truth. I pretended to fall asleep, lying there with my heart pounding in my chest. After a few hours I felt Hunter stir beside me. He quietly slipped out of bed, got dressed, and tiptoed out of the room. As soon as he was gone, I sprang into action. I threw on some clothes and followed him, my mind racing with possibilities. What was he up to? Where was he going? I trailed him through the silent streets, keeping a safe distance. My heart felt like it was about to burst out of my chest. When he finally stopped, it was in front of a bar. I paused, taking a deep breath before following him inside. The bar was dimly lit and filled with the low hum of conversation and clinking glasses. I spotted Hunter immediately. He was at a corner table, surrounded by a group of men, laughing and drinking like he didn't have a care in the world. The sight of him so carefree while I had been spiraling into a frenzy of anxiety and suspicion made my blood boil. "Hunter," I called out, my voice cutting through the noise. The bar seemed to fall silent as all eyes turned towards me. Hunter looked up, his eyes widening in surprise. "Portia, what are you doing here?" We settled in the living room, catching up and joking around. But I couldn't shake off the feeling of unease. I kept expecting Portia to call or suddenly appear, but she didn't. "What am I doing here?" I repeated, my voice trembling with anger and hurt. What are you doing here, sneaking out in the middle of the night to drink with your buddies while I'm at home worried sick?" He stood up, a mixture of guilt and frustration flashing across his face. "Portia, this is my only chance to hang out with my friends without you breathing down my neck." "Breathing down your neck? Is that what you think I do?" My voice was rising, my emotions bubbling over. "Yeah, it is," he said, his voice hardening. "You treat me like a child, Portia. You don't let me live my own life. You're like a mother who doesn't allow anything." I felt like I'd been slapped. The words stung, each one hitting deeper than the last. "I just want to be with you, Hunter. I love you." "You don't love me," he snapped. "You smother me. You don't let me breathe. I can't even have a night out with my friends without you losing your mind." Tears welled up in my eyes. "That's not fair. I'm just scared of losing you." "Scared of losing me?" He laughed bitterly. "Portia, you've already lost me. I need space, and if you can't give it to me, then we're done." The bar was dead silent now, everyone watching our drama unfold. I felt a sob rising in my throat. "Please, Hunter, don't do this. I'll change. I'll give you space." He shook his head. "I need to live my own life, Portia. You're selfish for not letting me have that." Selfish, the word echoed in my mind. "I've given everything to you. My whole life revolves around you." "And that's the problem," he said quietly. "I need a partner, not a caretaker." I left the bar, my vision blurred by tears. I wandered the streets, my mind racing with everything that had happened. His words echoed in my head, each one a painful reminder of how I had been smothering the man I loved. I spent hours walking, thinking about my past, my fears, and the future I wanted. I realized that Hunter was right. I had been selfish, clinging to him out of fear and insecurity. By the time I got home, I felt a strange sense of clarity. I knew what I needed to do. The morning light streamed through the curtains, casting a soft glow on the bedroom. I woke up feeling groggy, my head still buzzing from the previous night's confrontation. I glanced over at Portia, who was still asleep, her face streaked with dried tears. I sighed, rubbing my face, trying to shake off the lingering frustration. Portia stirred, her eyes fluttering open. She looked at me with a mixture of fear and sadness. "Hunter, can we talk?" Her voice was barely a whisper, but I could hear the tremble in it. "Yeah, we need to," I replied, sitting up and leaning against the headboard. She took a deep breath, sitting up as well. "I'm sorry for last night. I didn't realize how much I've been smothering you. I was so scared of losing you." "Portia, it's not that I don't love you," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "But I need some space to breathe. I need to feel like I have my own life, too." She nodded, tears welling up in her eyes again. "I understand. I know I've been too much. I don't want to lose you, Hunter. I'll do better." I reached out, taking her hand. "I don't want to lose you either, Portia. But we need to find a balance." She squeezed my hand, a small, hopeful smile tugging at her lips. "How about this? Invite your friends over tonight. I'll buy you guys some beer, and I'll stay at my friend's house for the night. That way you can have some time with them without me hovering around." I blinked, taken aback by her offer. "You'd really do that?" "Yes," she said firmly. "I want to show you that I trust you. I want to make things right." I felt a lump in my throat, touched by her gesture. "All right, let's try it. Thank you, Portia." That evening I invited my friends over. They were surprised but pleased to be invited to my place for once. Portia had gone out, true to her word, leaving us with a fridge stocked with beer and snacks. We settled in the living room, catching up and joking around. But I couldn't shake off the feeling of unease. I kept expecting Portia to call or suddenly appear, but she didn't. The hours ticked by and slowly I began to relax. "Hey man, you okay?" my friend Jake asked, noticing my distracted state. "Yeah, just." Adjusting, I replied with a wry smile. "It's been a bit rough at home lately." You mean with Portia? Jake guessed. I gotta say, it's nice to see you out and about more. Yeah, we're working on it, I said, feeling a pang of guilt. She's really trying, and so am I. The night wore on, and I finally felt a sense of normalcy. It was refreshing, and I realized how much I had missed this simple camaraderie. As my friends started to leave, I thanked them for coming and promised we'd do it again soon. After the last of them left, I sat down on the couch, the house feeling eerily quiet. Portia still hadn't called. I checked my phone, half expecting a dozen messages, but there was nothing. For the first time, I felt a glimmer of hope that maybe things could change. The next morning, Portia returned, looking a bit tired but determined. How was your night? She asked, setting down her bag. It was good, I said, smiling. Thank you for giving us space. It really meant a lot. She nodded, looking relieved. I'm glad. I want us to work, Hunter. I'll do whatever it takes. I pulled her into a hug, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. We'll make it work. Together. As we held each other, I knew this was just the beginning of a long road ahead. But for the first time in a while, I felt hopeful. Portia was beginning to understand the importance of trust and independence in our relationship, and I was willing to meet her halfway. We'd take it one step at a time, rebuilding the trust and balance we both needed.